Good morning. So this video is meant to be a brief accompaniment to Bite-Size RSI number 1, which is in the Bite-Size RSI series that came out in fall 2024. The first bite is have a communication plan and follow it. And I've got some slides for you. We're starting here, and we did start here last year with the RSI bites because the communication plan is really the first step. It's one of the most important aspects of RSI because it's essentially the plan. It's what we lay out in our syllabus, in our orientation module, and in our announcements, and really throughout the course that outlines how we plan to do RSI. So where do we communicate with our students? Where do they communicate with us? With what frequency will we communicate? How long does it take for us to get back to student messages? All of the things that kind of create the framework for how interaction and communication will happen in the online course. It's also a really good tool for when we're checking our own RSI to make sure that we're doing it. We can return to our communication policy and see, are we abiding by the rules we set forth? Are we communicating with students maybe in a way that we didn't list? And we can add that to the list. Or is there a tool that we said we were going to use, but we haven't used, and we can remove that? It's kind of a living policy that we can continually update to make sure students are aware of how communication is going to occur in the online course. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay. 1 minute to catch up with this. Okay. So we have Bite-Size RSI number 1, which is, as I said, have a communication plan and follow it. So the first piece is I want to show you the rubric, right? Where is this recommendation coming from? So this comes directly from the ACC-JC rubric on distance education quality. And it's in the regular section. So the rubric is split into substantive and regular. And so this section comes in the regular interaction component. So this is the first thing on that page, and I can let you read it for yourself, but I have arrows that are pointing to the most important parts. I do want to draw your attention that this is a continuum of quality. So we're aiming to be in the developed and highly developed category, really, in our communication with our students. But in order for us to come into initial compliance with the expectations of accreditation and Title V, we want to be in the initial or emerging categories. That is the bare minimum that we need to be doing in order to come into compliance. That's what this particular series focuses on, but there will be more development coming in the future that focuses on how we move from those initial categories into the more highly developed areas. So we need to have policies and procedures that make it very clear how often and when an instructor will interact. Course materials need to make it clear where that's going to happen and when. And there needs to be interaction expectations that are laid out. Okay? That's initial. That's the bare minimum that we have to have a communication policy. Okay? In the emerging category, we want it to be throughout the course. Right? Not just in the syllabus, but in announcements, in the orientation module, in weekly reminders, even in speed grader comments, we can make it very clear, like, hey, remember, I'm in my office at this time and this time, or remember, you can always email me with questions. We should really be reminding students throughout the course where we can be found. So this is that section of the rubric if you want to consult with it, or if you think that you're in the emerging category already and you want to move further along, please do so. But this will focus on initial and emerging. Okay, so how do we do it? We want to add a communication policy to these are the 3 main places I advise you to add it. The welcome letter, the syllabus, and your orientation materials. It should really be all over the place. And any good communication policy should have at minimum 3 parts. How the students will contact you, okay, where are you accessible to them? How the instructor will contact students, okay, so how are you going to be reaching out to them on a regular basis? And then if and how students will contact each other, right? In an online course, We don't have the ease of leaning to your neighbor and asking to borrow notes, or participating in a large group discussion that's happening live synchronously in person. And so it's good to clue students in to, like, where are the other students in this course? Where can you find them? And where will you have interaction with them? So let's break this down into the 3 pieces. How the students will access and contact the instructor. You'll want to indicate, how do you like being contacted, right? At a baseline, do you prefer emails? Do you like Canvas messaging? Is there some other way that you like students to get in touch with you? Let them know what communication tool you access and use most frequently. So if they need a quick response, they know where to send that message. Okay, communicate your office hours, where and when. This is where students can find you if they want a more synchronous face-to-face conversation about something that's challenging them. So that's very important that we communicate. How long does it take for you to get back to messages? Is it usually same day, or is it sometimes 24 to 48 hours if you're really busy and teaching an overload? What if they email you at 5 p.m. on a Friday? Are you going to get back to them over the weekend, or are they going to wait to hear from you probably till Monday morning? There's nothing wrong with that if that's the case. We just want to be clear with students, right? So in my own communication policies, I tell students that I'll usually get back to you within 12 to 24 hours during the week. It's usually same day. Sometimes it's a little longer. But if they get to me on a weekend, I honor my weekends and I take time for myself. And so they usually will wait until Monday to hear back from me. So I will tell them, don't wait until Friday night or Saturday to get into the weekly modules, because if you have questions, you won't be able to reach me. So make sure you log in early in the week, make sure everything's clear. Even if you don't do the work until the weekend, make sure that you ask the questions that you have before I start my weekend and you might not hear from me, okay? And then we want to provide explicit participation guidance. How are they expected to participate? Are there particular ways that they're expected to address you or to interact with you? Or do you expect a response to your speed grader comments, acknowledging that they were received, or asking questions or clarifying, right? Be really clear about how you want them to engage with your communication with them. So that's the first piece, okay? How students will access you. Where, when, how long is it going to take to hear back, okay? The next piece of this is how you're going to contact your students. So how often are they going to hear from you? I advise usually twice a week at minimum for an online course. The reason for this is because we're trying to kind of mimic the level of contact that we would have in a face-to-face course. And usually in a face-to-face course, we will see our students 2-3 times a week, and we'll be available for questions. We'll be overviewing what's going on in the course. We have those scheduled check-ins just by default based on the meeting times. And so we want to kind of create that same level of contact by getting in touch with students a couple of times a week. So I do this via weekly announcements. So every Monday at 8 a.m., I have an announcement post. And that doesn't mean that I'm on Canvas at 8 a.m. on Monday drafting announcements. I usually will get onto Canvas Friday or Saturday, kind of look at the content of the course, where are we headed, where have we been, what are the patterns I'm noticing in student work, and I will create an announcement and schedule it to publish at 8 a.m. on Monday. So when I'm in my emails and doing a bunch of other, non-teaching related things on my job, or non-grading, I guess, related, non-posting related things, my announcement is posting as students are getting into their modules and ready to greet the week and start the work. So usually I will do that on Monday, and then I will send some sort of follow-up announcement later on in the week. And it could be, like I said, patterns that you're noticing emerge in student work. It could be an additional resource or remedial material that you want to share. You also don't have to do 2 announcements. You can do 1 weekly announcement and then let the students know that, hey, I'm going to be in the discussion boards. I'm going to be in my office hours. I'm going to be grading your work this week. And so look for my speed grader comments. They should have some sort of contact with their instructor at minimum twice a week. but you have the freedom to decide how you like to interact with them. If you are not a huge discussion board participator, but you leave great detailed feedback in the speed grader or in the margins of a student's paper, that counts as regular and substantive contact that you're having with your students. So let them know, how often are you, going to be in the course? How often should they expect to hear from you? Kind of establish that like predictable contact schedule that students have in a face-to-face course, and then let them know where they're going to hear from you, okay? All right, piece number 3, if and how students will have contact with each other. So we want to indicate in this policy where students will find each other, right? Because they're not all gathering at the same time in the same place and having conversations about the content like we would in a face-to-face course. And so where are they gonna interact? Okay, maybe weekly announcement comments. I usually advise leaving the comments enabled on your weekly announcements so students can ask questions, they can respond to each other, and that's an opportunity for interaction right there in your weekly contact. Discussion boards is probably where students encounter themselves the most, encounter each other the most. And we often require peer responses in discussion boards. So this is probably a no-brainer if you use discussion boards in your courses, which we all should be doing. This is a good place to just clue them in that, hey, your peers are going to be in the discussion board, you're going to interact with each other there. In a lot of courses, we do peer reviews. So that's a good example of a place that students will have contact with each other. Maybe your course requires group projects. A lot of us include like a 24/7 student lounge or like just a question and answer discussion board that kind of just stays open the whole semester, and students can ask each other questions, exchange notes, talk about their own study habits. I'm often told that they aren't used a whole lot, but that is an opportunity where students can find one another if they choose to do that. So my advice is to use the template that is in the RSI bite number 1, and I have it for you on the following page as well, and implement it now. Even if it is 3 weeks from the end of the semester, it is never too late to improve communication, right? Whether that's with your students, in your personal relationships, with your bosses. As a communication teacher, I just don't think it's ever too late or too far gone to start communicating better. So if you see something in this presentation or in RSI bite number 1, and you're thinking, oh, I haven't been doing that, but I should. I get emails and I get Canvas messages, and I really would like everyone to send their questions to the same place. Tell students where to send them. It's not too late to do that and to simplify your life and to, communicate better with them about how to get a more immediate response, right? So I'm going to put the template up on the screen, warning you, it's kind of long, but it's because it is full of example content. And you can keep what works for you, you can delete what doesn't, and fill it in with your own policies and expectations for communication. This template is available for you in RSI bite number 1. You can also take a screenshot of it here if you like it, and this is a good format for you. But as you can see, we have it split into those 3 sections. How you can contact me with your name, your contact, your office hours, message turnaround time, how you're going to contact students and all the different methods that you use. Again, you don't have to use all of these. Use the ones that you, or leave the ones that you do use and add anything else that I didn't think of. And then how you'll interact with your classmates. Okay? And again, edit it as needed. But this is a video overview of RSI bite number 1, and the next one will be coming soon. I hope this was useful to you, and email me at eliseb@cos.edu if you have any questions. All right, thanks.